Having the freedom to travel is a wonderful thing, and one of the best parts is just planning for the trip. But what happens when you merely act on an impulse, an urge, a whim? Simply take flight without any preconceived idea as to what lies ahead. This is my story of throwing caution to the wind. But before I start this story, I need to end the last one, which was a contest as to where I was. Well, for those that couldn't figure out where I was, here's another clue. A totem pole. Gotta be Canada, right? Actually, you may be surprised. For that totem pole was just a gift to a country in celebration. So why not have fun with it? What a gorgeous day. It's hot, it's sunny. It wouldn't have been fair if I didn't leave clues, and was quite surprised at how many people picked up on them. It was the big green letters in the background, an M and an X. A little closer and it reveals it was really CDMX, which stands for Ciudad de Mexico, or Mexico City. More specific, it was the Chapultepec Forest, whose trees provide sanctuary for many birds as well as fresh air for the city. But who won the contest? The first one to identify both Chapultepec Park and Mexico City was a viewer named Ro from the Netherlands. Ro picked the ice globe photo as his prize. Congratulations! So now you know my location, let's carry on with the story. Maybe it's the air pollution, but one thing you really need in the morning is a good cup of joe. It won't clear the air, but it'll clear your head. But smoggy days are just one of several things the visitor must prepare for in Mexico City. For the meantime, however, let's return to the peaceful calm of Chapultepec Park just a little bit longer. Well, you can probably hear the airplanes in the distance. And they're there to remind me that I had a rough start to this trip. Because I don't like airplanes. I don't like flying, and it's not a fear of flying. I really don't like airplanes. It's that one mode of transportation that you're stuck between A and B. You don't have a choice in the middle. You can't get off. Same seat, same movie, same people around you, same noise. You're stuck with it. But the second problem is I have motion sickness. And when I finally got to Mexico City, I was a zombie, but I made it to my room, thank God for that, and I just sort of lied out in the bed until it was over. And I thought I was okay, but by the next day, when I decided to have lunch... One of my biggest challenges in Mexico is I really don't speak Spanish, and I'm a vegetarian, so whenever I go, I get a menu which has no English on it at all, and I haven't really memorized any of the dishes yet. So you can pretty well guarantee I'm going to have a lot of Coca-Cola and ensalada. Well, I think one thing that everybody seems to say about Mexico is don't drink the water and don't have any leafy green vegetables like lettuce. So, if I start puking my guts out, it'll be on film. Well, that's not exactly true. I didn't film it, and I wasn't going to film it because I thought it wasn't going to happen, but it did, and it was nasty.
Behold the revenge of Montezuma.
First of all, the stomach starts feeling a little bad, and all of a sudden, whoosh, out it goes, both ends. And, I got a bucket, and I'm sitting on the toilet. But I did learn some neat things about the human anatomy I didn't know about, especially regarding plumbing. Because the body doesn't want you to expel both directions at the same time. And first, I had to throw up. And so I was doing the seal thing, the building up the stomach muscles. But as soon as I went to go, the valve cut off and it went the other end instead. And then I had to build up to that chuck again. It was very uncomfortable and it was painful, and I hope I never have to live through that again. But after a day of tummy torture, I finally joined the living once more, though not looking my best. My first goal was to merely open the curtain. A little slow and pale at first, but I recovered quickly. My sanctuary for the day was the National Museum of Anthropology, which resides inside Chapultepec Park. With so many museums to choose from, it was difficult to just pick one, but my interest in pre-Columbian cultures made it a perfect choice. The Central Hall is devoted to the Tenochtitlan exhibit, which is the original Aztec Empire that once existed where Mexico City now stands. Perhaps the most famous sculpture is the Aztec Sunstone. Described by many as a calendar, more likely it illustrates the Aztec link to the cosmos, nature, and the gods. Glancing into the faces carved in stone offers a direct path into the eyes of artists from a long-lost world. But when those faces return your stare, you see into their souls, feeling their thoughts, struggles, and joys at the time they still breathed. It's an eerie and intense feeling. And on the lighter side is the sensual and erotic sculptures on display. And these guys were really up for the occasion. Also on display is a miniature of the ancient city, with a mural of how the area looked when the Spanish first arrived. There's also a gallery of historical photographs, as well as some outdoor exhibits depicting the ancient temples of the jungle. It really gives you a sense of the landscape before Columbus. In-house restorations of artifacts are ongoing, and if you're lucky, you might see one in progress. Among the old images is the famous shot of the Olmec colossal head being excavated in 1947. Seeing an original up close gives you a sense of how massive and mysterious they really are. A day really is not enough time to explore the 22 halls, exhibits, and galleries. So if you're planning a visit, it's best to plan on a couple of trips to this world-class museum. But looking into the past shows you that sometimes very little has changed. For in today's Mexico City, trade is still a big part of life. The Palace of Fine Arts is not a place to fear at all. It's a place to enjoy opera and other music. It's beside Alameda Central Plaza, which is a gorgeous park of fountains, trees, and marble walkways. But the discomfort I was referring to was really just a personal one. Now you might ask, why would somebody who prefers the solitude of the wilderness and the forests all of a sudden thrust himself in the midst of 21 million people, the noise and the chaos? I don't know. Because I was looking for a change. It's nice to be able to find beautiful places to camp and relax, but sometimes you have to face your anxieties. And one of my anxieties is I'm not crazy about crowds, and I don't like a lot of noise. What more perfect place to challenge myself than downtown Mexico City? Or even walking is a challenge. And the fact that hardly anybody speaks English is another challenge. And even if they did want to speak, chances are I wouldn't hear them anyway. Have a positive attitude and make the best of it. And that's what I plan on doing. If you're brave or just experienced with city traffic, you can rent a bicycle, but I preferred to walk, especially to see the street vendors. But it would not be a balanced picture of Mexico if you miss seeing at least one of the colorful markets that are scattered throughout the old city. There was really nothing I needed to buy. It was more just the experience of the centuries-old tradition of vendors hawking their wares to the locals. Now, I had heard there was one particular market that specialized in magic, herbal remedies, death worship, and even the occult. But finding it through all those obstacles and dark, cramped passageways was a real daunting task. Eventually, I twisted through a labyrinth that took me across a narrow bridge and briefly into sunlight again. At the other side of the bridge was my destination, El Mercado, Sonora. At the heart of this complex is a government-established building, but what used to be the parking lot was quickly replaced by tarps and umbrellas of more vendors. No space goes wasted here. The deeper you go, the darker it gets, and those squeezed passageways were cramped with medicines, potions, herbs, and remedies, none of which I had the faintest clue what they cured. But I'm sure whatever ails you, a remedy exists here. As for the occult, I did see lots of figurines and dolls that suggested an underworld, especially Our Lady of Holy Death, Santa Muerte. But signs of true witchcraft seemed to elude me.
I don't think I found the occult. However, it's still pretty unique.
As a traveler, I really stood out from the locals, and my presence was a little awkward. But when I turned one corner, it was clear I was not welcome. By accident, I'd walked into the animal market and was not impressed by the conditions. Within seconds, I was stopped and told to stop filming. A quick escort out the door, and that was it for my market experience. My walking tour was over, and I quickly hailed a cab. But I was not ready to seek the safety of my secure room, as I was getting a little hungry. A few quesadillas and avocado really hit the spot.
In some of my videos I say, always be safe. But some people don't understand the difference between being safe and taking risks. Because I never say, don't take any risks. I encourage people to take risks. Not major ones, but little ones. And to me, this trip was a little bit of a risk. But as far as safety goes, I mean, when you wear a safety belt on your car, that's being safe. The risk is actually going somewhere with that car, is being out in the highway. So there's a little bit of a difference there. But without risk, you really eliminate the sense of adventure. You reduce your awareness, you reduce your growth. You need risk. You need to take a chance every once in a while. But it should be a calculated risk, not a stupid one.
On my last day in the old city, I did not seek adventure or risk, but inner peace. I'd been through a lot in the last few days, so a place of faith was welcome. The Metropolitan Cathedral is on the north side of the Plaza de la Constitución. A merging of several architectural styles from old Europe, it took 250 years to complete, starting in 1573. In its halls contain 16 chapels, 5 altars, 51 vaults, 74 arches, and 40 columns. But the numbers are not as fascinating as the details. The hearts and souls of so many sculpturers, architects, painters, and gilding masters compete for attention in this glorious outpouring of the art of worship. Built over sacred Aztec ground, for centuries this monument of prayer, hope, and forgiveness has provided comfort to all seeking guidance from above.
Well, with my prior experiments on eating in cheap restaurants and on the street not going too well, I decided to go to the more expensive restaurants where you really don't get an awful lot and it costs a lot of money, but the menu's in English and chances are it won't make me sick.
Finding quiet, tranquil places to relax in Mexico City can be a challenge with the constant drone of traffic and jets and airplanes and everything around you. But Chapultepec Park can be tranquil, especially if you hit it at the right time. And it is a nice break from that constant chaos of the city. Certainly the biggest handicap for somebody like me coming to Mexico City is I don't speak the language. And the language is not English. Some may think English is king around the world. Well, it's not in Mexico City. It's Spanish. And my knowledge of Spanish is minimal. I can order a beer, but everything else, it's going to take a little bit more time and effort to make people understand. So if you're thinking of coming to Mexico City as a solo traveler, learn Spanish first or hire an interpreter. You can also go on a tour, or if you just have a buddy that knows a little bit of Spanish, you'll be a lot better off than just wandering off yourself and getting confused. And of course I make it a little bit more complicated, the fact that I'm a vegetarian and this is a place of meat. Everybody loves meat, and unfortunately there's not a lot of vegetarian dishes in the markets. So just add those few little things together and you'll find that it's not an ideal situation for a solo traveler, but it certainly is an interesting situation to learn in. Would I come back again? Yes, although I'd be a little bit more prepared. If you were a tourist looking for the best sights and attractions of the region, you're probably a little disappointed with this video. But it really wasn't my goal to flaunt the pretty pictures. I just wanted to share my own experiences. I don't think I was ever in any major danger. I'd say the biggest danger was to my stomach, and that you have to be really careful about. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and you'll check out my other travels as well. I have no regrets, just a great egret to close this video, and a warm thanks for those who made it happen.